welcome back to Just One Question. And I have to say, even though we're in 2.0 and it still feels like this pandemic will never end in January of 2022 when we're recording this, there is a silver lining. And that silver lining is I get to connect with people again that I have been missing, and friendships that I treasure get reignited in this slightly weird virtual way. One of those is my next guest, Gina London. She's the founder and CEO of Language of Leadership, which is a company that helps execs all over the world connect better with others and themselves. And Gina is a former CNN correspondent too. So welcome, Gina. How are you doing? It's good to see you. How's Ireland? How are you?
You know what? Ireland is great. So yes, American former CNNer, but now calling the Emerald Isle my home, and where I got to have coffee in person with you just a few years ago when you were giving a presentation about one of your many books. And here we are now, of course, with the power of Zoom and the other online formats that we are able, as you said, to continue to stay in contact virtually. So I'm doing great. It's great to see you. It's great to be part of Just One Question 2.0. Here we are. And yeah, I'm doing really well.
That's wonderful. And I'm glad to hear it. And even if you're lying, I'm pleased to see you. So we're all a little haggard, a little ragged because of the pandemic, but no, that's okay. It's okay. It's fine. We're getting through.
Here's the thing, as you said in the intro, I mean, my company helps leaders fill their reservoir, that they have been giving of themselves so much to try to engage their teams, to motivate their colleagues, to keep their employees still with the will to come to the virtual workplace every day. And who feeds them? Well, that's where coaching and reinforcement of leadership principles and getting them excited and motivated about what they give to others is what I do. And actually that in turn does feed me. And so I will say here in January when we're recording this, that I am actually really excited about this online ability to connect. Is it as good as being in person? No, but it does work. And I've had new clients come on board. I've had coaching engagements that have been really fulfilling. And that ability to have those connections and make those connections is something that I'm excited about. So I'm excited about the future, that now we have this as a proven tool in the toolkit of how we connect with others. And I'm also looking forward, and I'm excited about more of that hybrid, where I did have my first ever in December since pandemic in-person training session with a group of execs in London. And boy, that was to see people in 3D, to see their feet, to actually feel that spatial relationship happen. There was something really, really powerful about that. But I am grateful that now we have the ability to know that we can do both.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And thanks for anticipating and answering my Just One Question before I had a chance to answer it, or to ask it. So well done.
I'm also really happy that I've become clairvoyant in the last couple of months.
It's amazing. You read my mind. So it's very cool to think about. You talked about this sort of new option that we have to have these virtual meetings, and while they're not as good as in person, as we were discussing before we hit record, they are still worthy and worthwhile and have their place. But what I'm wondering about is, can we imagine a future state with new technology that replaces more of that sense of being in person, or are we stuck forever in having to choose in the hybrid world between either a lesser virtual thing and the in-person option with all the difficulties currently that presents? But is there a technological future that we can imagine? As a CNN correspondent, you've got a long time experience with these various forms of virtual and recorded interactions. Can you imagine a time or a technology that would make this better?
Well, here's an interesting, I want to put a composite into your question, Nick, because on one hand, yes, and I've actually, since we pivoted from anything in person to almost everything virtual when the pandemic hit back in 2020, and I was only used to be doing coaching and speaking and facilitating and workshops in person. Because of my background as a television journalist, this idea of how do you have energy on camera? How do you make sure your screenshot looks bright and lively, and that is a reflection of you as a person? Because our evolution of expectation for how these Zoom shots, if you will, should look has changed. So that's, yeah, sure, a kid can still walk in or a dog can bark, but we do expect, especially of our leaders, to have the shot right and to have that energy alive. And so that's actually been an area that I've been able to support a lot of my clients with. So now as we move forward and you talk about what more technology can help us connect, or we're going to have 3D holograms become de rigueur over time, I could see that happen. Absolutely. We're having virtual. I just facilitated a 4-hour web live conference yesterday from the day we were recording with global experts I've never met in person from all over the world, and healthcare providers talking about the future of patient care. And I would have thought in early 2020 that a 4-hour online thing was just going to be deadly, but people are learning how to find in the breaks, to break up the flow, to basically produce the webinar like you would a television program or a newscast, so that it's not super boring. We've got some more questions and ways to make things enlivened. And so what I'm saying to that composite part that I was, alluding to, is that I think technology, of course, is going to advance, but it's going to require us as people to make sure we keep our human warmth, emotional intelligence, all that person stuff is going to have to be skilled up to offset the technology distance, if that makes sense. So you can't rely on technology. You got to make sure you can bring that person there to make the connection, or all the technology in the world isn't going to feel connecting or human or warm or have the rapport or have honest engagement unless you've got that ability to really make it that, and that comes from you as the person. Technology can't be a substitute for that.
Gina London, everybody, giving us the bottom line as a former CNN correspondent and founder and CEO of Language of Leadership. I love that insight, because in the end, if we're not present in person or virtually or in some future technological state that we can hardly imagine, a hologram or hologram plus, if we're not present, then none of that is going to work for us. It's still our job to be present. Anyway, thank you so much for being on Just One Question. And I do look forward to having another cup of coffee with you in person in the future at some time, God knows when. So stay well, and thank you.
Fantastic, Nick. You too. There's no substitute for people. The Matrix won't do it. We got to be human.